On September 21st, 1989, everyone in Charleston, South Carolina was either preparing for the approach of Hurricane Hugo or evacuating to escape its arrival. They had no way of knowing that within 10 hours, it would become the worst storm ever recorded in this country.
We interrupt this program to bring you a Live 5 weather bulletin.
The emergency preparedness is ordering everybody in the low-lying areas of Charleston, the West Ashley area, to get out now. You no longer have a choice. You're being ordered out. So it is a mandatory evacuation.
Hugo approaches. There are last-ditch efforts to get everyone and everything that can be moved to safety.
Have now been reversed. So there are only lanes leaving Charleston. You now have 6 lanes leaving Charleston.
My father was really worried about Hugo. I said, what are we going to do? We're going to evacuate or we're going to stay? And my dad said, well, we're going to stay.
My husband decided to make preparation for the storm. He should not have been working that hard because he knew he had a heart problem.
He was almost finished with the drainage ditch, and he started pulling his chest a little bit. And I said, Daddy, what's wrong? He said, I have a tightness in my chest.
19-year-old Charlotte Stewart convinced her father he needed to rest.
We got back into the house, and he started breathing oddly.
Mommy!
Shirley Stewart brought her husband his heart medicine.
We asked him to go to the hospital. He refused to go. But I knew that we had to do something because if the storm came, then we couldn't get to the hospital.
We have some information coming in now from the Emergency Preparedness Office. Let's go.
Bill McCauley was the Deputy Public Information Officer that day.
We had all kinds of media there. We had every major network, newspaper, radio, because we had to get the message to the people that there was a major force that was coming and that it could kill them if they did not leave.
We have a news release from the shelter people from the American Red Cross. The shelter at Wando High School is filled to capacity.
The Stewart women managed to convince Herman he needed to get medical attention.
He was in pain, I could tell, but he would always try to hide his pain. Then he started breathing funny, and I touched him, and he collapsed.
Are you okay?
I was terrified. I was scared to death that my father was going to die.
But 13-year-old Keisha remembered the CPR instructions she'd read on a calendar.
I didn't know what I was doing, but when he started responding, I knew I was doing something right.
I was surprised when I saw Keisha doing CPR. It was the best thing that could have happened in my life because she saved his life.
By 4 o'clock this afternoon, the last satellite picture we received, you can see just to the southeast of the Charleston area, there's the eye of the storm, very, very potent storm. And as
storms are rated from Category 1, which is the minimal storm, to the most catastrophic storm, which is Category 5.
Dennis Clark had prepared the hurricane evacuation plans.
We felt that we had well over 100,000 people at risk from the storm.
As Hugo neared Charleston, Herman Stewart was admitted to Roper Hospital and put in the intensive care unit. His wife, Shirley, could not stay.
It was the most devastating time I've ever had in my life because I was worried about Hugo. I was worried about my husband. They said I had to leave before the storm started. The hardest part about it was leaving him alone, not being there for him.
It's now just a few hours before the hurricane should slam into Charleston and the rest of the Low Country. A lot of that humor.
If you want to leave the Charleston area, please leave now. You cannot delay, because shortly it will become too dangerous to leave the Charleston area.
Lincoln High School was offered as a shelter based on the fact that the Corps of Engineers study said that it should remain dry up through a Category 4 storm.
People were located throughout the school. There were some people in the band room, people in the home economics room, people in the gym, and people in the cafeteria. I was basically there to keep law and order.
Hundreds of people left their homes and took refuge at Lincoln High School.
At that point, the wind was just rattling, whistling throughout the school. I mean, you could almost hear the school breathing.
Hurricane Hugo is now a strong Category 3 hurricane. I repeat, a strong Category 3 hurricane. That means that we will have winds up to 132 miles an hour.
We believe in county government that it is unsafe for you to travel and transverse the roadways. So
by 9 p.m., it became too dangerous for anyone to go out in the storm.
At this point, do not leave where you are.
Among the people who had taken shelter at Lincoln High were Deborah Snyder and her family.
I have a 16-month-old little girl, and we went on to the school. It was me and my other 3 sisters, my little nephew, and my little niece. We was playing cards, and the light kept blinking off and on. We was having fun, really. It didn't bother me. But when I glanced out, the roof was like lifting up and making a lot of racket.
Ladies and gentlemen, landfall for Hurricane Hugo is between 12 and 1:30 this evening, north of the city of Charleston. We will have surges of between 12 and 18 feet, serious storm surges. Hold where you are. Stay secure. The 2-story house, go to the 2nd story. I repeat, stay where you are.
We do have a Category 4 storm now.
Anything you guys can do for a person when that roof's fogging?
You got a house? No, sir. You just need to a part of the house. Here to another part of the house. No, sir. There's no way we can get anybody out of there right now.
When the hurricane finally hit, the calls really started coming in.
Wait, nobody does.
We had to tell them, you can't leave. You're going to have to stay right there until it's over now. You know, you don't have a choice. I understand that. That's a very solemn feeling. To not be able to help when that's what you're committed to doing for the rest of your life.
While Helen Moan worked at the 911 center, her 7-year-old son Darren was at a shelter with his godmother, listening to the shortwave radio.
The children played all kinds of games. They explored the building. And every once in a while, we would all go to the back door and open the door and look out.
At Roper Hospital that night, nurse Karen DiLorenzo Thames headed the intensive care unit.
In the ICU, we have 14 critically ill patients that we know need to be taken care of. Mr. Stewart was admitted in the afternoon prior to the storm with a diagnosis of a heart attack. I'd say he was unstable at that point.
The wind was whistling like I've never heard it before. Transformers were blowing up all over town. It's the most brilliant color aqua I have ever seen.
At 9:40, the transmission system feeding Charleston failed. Roper Hospital was without power. But within seconds, its 5 emergency generators kicked in. In many parts of the hospital, lights were deliberately turned off, so power could be supplied to the areas that needed it most.
There was a problem with the generators, with the fuel lines. Evidently, the wind loosened up the fittings enough where we lost suction.
We knew we had a problem, and we had to do something to resolve it quickly. If there wasn't any power, it could have been very dangerous to the people in these critical care areas.
The full fury of the hurricane hit right around midnight when Hugo came ashore with sustained winds of 135 miles an hour. This is 6 miles inland.
We realized someone was going to have to go out there and hand pump diesel fuel to those generators to keep them running.
We had approximately 15-20 minutes before we ran dry. There wasn't time to say, well, Dave, you go, or Dan, I'll go, or whatever. So Dave and I decided that if we went out there together and one slipped, there'd be another guy there to help.
We really couldn't see what was going on or what was flying through the air. The velocity of the wind is just unbelievable.
We had an extremely hard time. The wind whipping through there was probably 125 or 130 miles an hour. I'd have to pump about 15 minutes and they'd give me the okay signal. And I'd come back in again and I thought, well, you know, that wasn't too bad. I could probably do that 3 or 4 times. Little did I know that every time I went out there, it got worse and worse and worse.
When we continued,
the water came in so fast, like it wasn't never going to stop. And I heard the people tell their wife and the kids, let's all hold hands, we're going to die together, let's go down together.
no one knew for certain how long Hurricane Hugo would last, nor how much damage it would do before its fierce winds were finally spent.
The eye wall, apparently, Rob tells me, is now moving across Charleston. That is when we expect that tremendous storm surge. We've heard reports of up to 18 feet of water. That is now, the eye wall is now moving forward across Charleston.
Flash flood watch is in effect for the entire state. Actually, this is for today and tomorrow. That includes all of the state of South Carolina.
Everybody was just listening out for the storm. It sounded like a train was coming in. Roof and stuff was flying off.
I heard someone yell, water, water. Water was coming in fast. I started panicking. Everybody started panicking. In about 5 minutes or less, the water was about to my waist.
A lot of people wanted to break out to the front door, and thanks God that the pressure from the water didn't let the door open because the water was twice as high on the outside.
The water was coming up to my knees, and I thought, you can't go no farther. And the next second, it was all the way up at my throat. I looked at another girl. I said, we're going to die. She said, I know it.
My cousin tore the roof up to try to get the little kids up here first because the water was just pouring in. Everybody was panicking, screaming. I saw my whole life just passing me. I thought of all the things that I did in the past, the things that I wanted to get accomplished in the future. I didn't know if I was ever going to get those things done again.
The water came in so fast, like it wasn't never going to stop. We got most of the people up on the tables and chairs around it, and I heard the people tell their wife and the kids, let's all hold hands, we're going to die together, let's go down together.
As the full force of Hugo slammed into Charleston about 11 p.m., it ripped part of the roof off the Emergency Preparedness Center.
That is when it hit me that we were dealing with something that we had no control over.
I think probably the most prudent thing that we could do is at least try to make it to the eye passes, or the eye is here, because we have winds that are now, I am sure, well over 100 miles an hour outside. It will pick up anything. It will pick up little rocks off the ground. It will take things off of your truck and make them missiles.
I made a decision along with Dennis Clark and some of the other county officials that we needed to evacuate out of that building during the eye of the hurricane.
Yeah, we're just over here at EPD right now. We lost part of the roof on the back part of the building.
When we heard that the roof had blown off the emergency preparedness building, Darren got upset because he figured that's where his mother was at. And he said, I just know my mama's dead. I said, no, Darren, she wasn't at that building. He said, no, Mama's dead. So I said, we'll call her and let you talk to her.
There ain't nothing we can do right now. The only thing I can tell you to do is get in the center part of your house and stay in the center part of the house.
We can't possibly respond to any calls right now. I was impressed with 911 system. We had no electricity, but those phones kept on ringing constantly.
But y'all just try to take care of yourselves and stay away from the windows, okay?
I was very wrapped up in what I was doing, and I'm answering the phone. You know, I'm mashing the buttons, 911. One of the dispatchers said, Chief, you need to take this phone call next.
Chief Mom. Hey, say something to Darren. He's upset and worried about it.
Okay, I feel the same way about him.
Okay.
All right. Hi, Mom. Are you okay?
My eyes swelled up right away. I started to cry right away. He wanted to know if I was still alive.
Okay, I've been worried about you. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Mama has to go, okay? It's very busy.
Here I am, Chief Mo, answering the phone call and being very authoritative, and then all of a sudden, it's like a slap in the face. Your mama.
All right? All right. I love you. Give Mama a kiss. I'll call you as soon as I can, okay? Okay. Hey, everything's going to be all right, baby. All right? Okay. All right. I love you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Oh, God. Before I hung up, I made sure he knew I was okay, and I made sure he was okay. And then it was right back to answering the phones again, you know. This is North Charleston Emergency. Battalion Chief Mo, can I help you, you know?
North Charleston 911, operator 1.
No, ma'am, we can't. It's too late.
32 story, 1 story. Yeah, 1 story. If you got a mattress you can pull across, get on.
Approximately the third, maybe the fourth time I went out there, I lost my footing. By the time I got back up, they had the rope tight, and they were getting ready to pull me back. But then I said, no, I'm okay, let's go, come on. I remember thinking, I can't keep doing this, because I was exhausted, and I thought buildings are going to come down. I didn't think they would be able to withstand the wind.
At Lincoln High School, the water in the buildings continued to rise.
There was nowhere to escape it. I went up on the windowsill as high as I could, and I looked outside, and I was looking up at the water from my windowsill, and I saw the cars floating on top of each other outside. I thought the world was coming to an end.
By daybreak, the storm was over.
It was the grayest dawn I've ever seen, and quiet. A Coast Guard helicopter came in, and it was a beautiful sight.
Nobody knew what we went through at Lincoln High School.
More than 1,000 people had been sheltered at the school when it flooded.
I was thinking that it was going to be a lot of bodies that morning floating. If everyone died, I didn't want to live.
Amazingly enough, everybody said that their family was accounted for. And I remember a couple over there holding a small infant baby. I asked them, you know, can I hold your baby for a minute? They gave me the baby, and I remember holding the baby, and I started crying.
As the waters subsided the next day, the people of Charleston returned to find what was left of their homes. Only 3 lives were lost in Charleston as a result of Hugo. For the Stewart family, the biggest relief that day was learning that Herman was going to be all right.
When they told me that Keisha saved my life, I was very surprised. It made me really feel very proud. They could save the daddy life, so I think both of them was heroes.
Shirley is also proud of her daughters and grateful to the maintenance workers who risked their lives that night to keep the generators running.
I want to thank those men for what they did. Otherwise, my husband probably wouldn't be here today if they hadn't done what they did. May God bless them.
This rope was secured around our waist with about 4 of the other maintenance guys around it.
I'm proud of what I did, but I also have to feel for all the other guys down here that did just as much, if not more. So you can call me a hero or whatever, but if you do, you have to call the rest of the people heroes too.
Disaster relief immediately began helping the thousands of people left homeless in the devastated city. Battalion Chief Helen Mohn worked hundreds of hours of overtime in the next few weeks.
I love my job, and he knows that, but we have a great relationship. When I'm not at work, I'm with him. So he's like my roommate, my best friend. You know, I think everything's going to be okay for us.
I talked to my mom, and she said she wasn't hurt, and she said she was okay. When we could go back and I could see my mom, that was the happiest moment.
This hurricane have changed Charleston forever, but we have had many things happen in Charleston. We've had the Civil War, we've had a major earthquake, we've had a major fire. We've always bounced back. One of the favorite books that I've got at home is a pictorial book of Charleston that's entitled Come Hell or High Water. And I think that basically says that come hell or high water, we'll be back.